Can you imagine going to school with Mark Zuckerberg? How about hanging out with Bill Gates? Well, that's reality for today's interviewee, Ms. Zat Chin, undergraduate, Harvard, class of 2024. Let's go. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Pathways to Excellence. We are right here in, Cambridge, Massachusetts. Well, at least Zat is in Cambridge, Massachusetts right now at Harvard University. And I have the honor of speaking to Ms. Zat Chin CC, one of the only Malaysians accepted to Harvard University during that dry spell from 2017 up until 2020 alongside Akila Azmi. So Zat is currently studying computer science at Harvard University and is going to be graduating in 2024. How do you feel about that?
I think it's exciting and scary at the same time. Like just the thought of leaving school, it's pretty scary, but I think it's very exciting at the same time. It's kind of like mark a new beginning of chapter. And I'm very excited about personal growth and the challenge that is gonna come after graduation. And I think like I'm just chilling. As my senior year, I want to learn as much as I can. And I can't wait to go back and see how it goes.
Okay, so how have you been? I mean, like, what was your first day of classes like? Were you like crazily shopping around for like different things as well? Because like our friend Godway was basically going for like 6 different classes in the course of one day. I'm like, oh my gosh, not human. So like, how was your day?
I feel like I'm a senior, so like I'm a bit chiller as in that sense.
I see.
Like I'm old. Like I don't have like too much drive to shop like 6 classes anymore. I I just have like 2 classes, very chill. Like my first class start on like 10:30, and
Wow.
then
Just like,
my next class start on like 12. I end my
oh,
class at 1:15,
10:30,
and
but
I was basically
yeah, it's just
chilling.
graduate probability. Oh, what we're gonna do right now is we're just gonna learn how to like win $50 million from a casino. No big deal. That's just like part of homework. Oh yeah, so then by lunchtime like next week then we have to find out how to cure cancer. I don't know
That will
about
be a
that.
fun class. That will be a fun class.
That'll be a fun class. The scary thing is that you're basically not even saying, "Oh, that would be impossible," but who knows what is actually possible out there. Anyway, good to see you, Zat. And thanks so much for taking the time to do this interview. Really, really appreciate it. That being said,
Thank
so
you
let's
so much for like inviting me. I think this is a great initiative. I really like really grateful that you actually reached out to me. And I hope that like this video can benefit more people as well.
For
Finger
sure. Okay.
crossed.
Well, all right. So then I guess senior year is just kind of like starting off for you right now. So like I don't know, like how are days going for you at the moment as you kind of like transition to this like final year? Like how do you see yourself, I guess, like spending your time most of the time? Or is that even like a valid question? Because you just started, right?
I think that's a very valuable question. I would say like my kind of like goals have shifted like over the years as I kind of like grow and experience through Harvard. I feel like the first few years is more hectic. Like I really focus on like the academic part of it. I really like try to like learn as much as possible without like really understanding what I'm learning, like how am I applying to like real life and stuff. I feel like in senior years I'm more focusing on my like personal growth and passion and interest. And
Mm-hmm.
I feel like this is actually like a huge change because I feel like throughout the years I've been lost, like I don't know what to do. There's a lot of like attraction from like different part, like people have going to careers, people have tried different things. And I think there's a lot of side tracks, but I think this year I kind of like not like really figure myself out. I would say like as a 24 years old, trying to say like I figured everything out. That's kind of like a huge tagline. But I would say like I have more goals, more oriented goals. Like for example, like I wanted to be healthier, like I wanted to work out more, I wanted to like really like focus on like more mental like
Mm-hmm.
positivity thoughts in my life, and I
Oh, for
wanted to like
sure.
really
Yeah.
explore more like um different classes beyond like what I initially take, and like maybe like taking classes at like the business school to really like expand on like what I'm passionate about and
Oh,
what I really
yeah.
care about
For
in life.
sure. I did see that you were part of like the cohort of innovation tech fellows, if I'm not wrong, at Harvard Business School. And there are many other things as well, which I think that we'll get into in the minutes ahead right there. But I guess on the theme of self-exploration, that's definitely super valuable. Although on your front, well, I guess like, even in those early years before you got into Harvard, there was maybe, well, I mean, like lots of people have like this, I guess, inclination to like self-explore, I guess, and maybe people are like lost at some earlier point, but like not everybody goes on to like start like multiple nonprofits, like I think it was like a BASE initiative. What does BASE actually stand for?
It's just big.
It's literally just
Like
BASE.
we wanted to like when we like try to come up with like a name for these like
Mm,
initiatives like base, for example, like we want to like make sure that like transitioning like from high school to college is
mm,
like a step, and we want to make sure that we provide the basic or like foundation for people to kind of follow up and like help them with their education. I think
mm.
it's also like basic. So we wanted at first we're like, oh, we can do like basic, but then we can't like build a word out about it. I think
Ah,
this is
okay.
base.
So it's literally just a base, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, anyway, so thank you for not just your academic accomplishments, which surely have been incredible, and we'll talk about those in a quick bit, but also the contributions that you've made into the world of education. And as a reminder to our viewers, Pathways to Excellence is a project that's meant to showcase examples of how education essentially can benefit the world around us. And it is my honor to have, well, not just excellent students, but also people who have acted in the past and have been empowered in various ways to act in the future as well to empower education for the next generation. So, once again, thank you so much for being on this show. And so, as we kind of get into the next bit right here, I like to kind of dial back as we kind of transition back to that point when you were a student, for example, at the KYUEM. And I think that like I heard this in the BFM interview about how basically your sister essentially gaslighted you and told you that you didn't get accepted, and then later on that you discovered yeah, that you had gotten into Harvard.
Yeah, it
But
was. It was a journey.
it was a journey. All right, cool. So, well, now can you, I guess, tell me, right? So, how do you feel at that point about, for example, being able to study computer science, and what did you think that that would, I guess, allow you to do in Malaysia that you could not, as a consequence of the education that you receive?
Wow, I think that's a very deep question. I'll try to like break it up. So I think when I found out that I was able to actually go to Harvard to get an education, even like within like with computer science or whatever, I think it was definitely a very shocking decision. I would say it come as a surprise. I would say I worked hard for it, but like as usual, like you always don't want to have like expectation, so you don't
Mm,
get disappointment. I would say like I was really grateful to be even like given the opportunity to study at Harvard. I feel like
mm,
there's not a lot of people who have the opportunity, and I'm so lucky to even get the opportunity to study here. Um, on the second point about like why computer science and how I see it contributing back to Malaysia, I'll say it kind of like go on to my self exploration journey since like
mm,
yeah, I feel like this self exploration topic that we talk about is more like a cycle kind of thing. You're like, oh, I got this, and then you reiterate through the exploration cycle. That's what I recently discovered. But like at that
mm,
point of my life, I kind of discovered that like first of all, like Malaysian doesn't really have a lot of technical skills.
mm,
Like when you want to build something, like when I wanted to do something, I was mostly like a non-technical founder, and that makes things really hard, right? For example, if I want to like build a website, or like if I wanted to like do some coding
mm,
experience, I think that kind of like served me in a disadvantage. And thus I really wanted to study like computer science, statistics, machine learning, AI, all of this like technology it in the heart of where it created, which is like in the United States. I feel like they are more focused on applied. They really like make sure that you actually like learn what you have
mm,
learned, but also like make sure that you have an idea to go back and contribute. And that's what I really liked about the US education system. And that's why I choose to go to Harvard initially.
mm,
And I feel like my initial goal is that I want to be a founder in the future with like technical background. And I think I realized how important this is. We are like founding like Project Bowie and Base because I think it just gave you more foundation to even start. I think thinking from like a technical perspective, how to think from a computer science perspective, how to think logically, formally. I think that's a very like valuable lessons, and I'm very grateful to even get the opportunity to learn from that. And that's why I wanted to study computer science. And the second thing is because I'm really passionate about tech. Like I always wanted to like bring back like technology to Malaysia. Like one of the things that I kind of see is that like there are a lot of great technology in the world, and it's really hard to like bring it back to Malaysia, and especially suited for like our demographic itself. Like for example, like some medical devices can work in the States, but might not work in like Malaysia because of like some kind of like cultural difference, some beliefs. And I really wanted to know like how we can break that, how we can really bring technology that is beneficial for humanities back to Malaysia. And that kind of prompted me to really study more in like computer science, stats, and like, you know, related field in that sense.
Interesting. Okay, great. Well, in a recent interview, in fact, the interview with Wei, he offers a slightly differing perspective. I mean, that essentially, before we even think about like bringing in technology, so then we would need essentially to settle the environment and the policy direction for like various things of that nature. How do we reconcile that with, I guess, like your perspective that we need to bring in new technologies as essentially, it may be a valid point to say that, you know, we have to settle a policy direction in various ways before we bring in technology in the first place.
I would say like bringing in technology, like as I like kind of like experienced throughout like high school and even in like university itself, it depends a lot on like different thing. And I agree with what Kotway says that it depends a lot on the policies as well. But I feel like all of this kind of go concurrently, or even sometimes it can go like the technology can come first and the policy can come later. That's what happened to like Uber back in the States, whereby, you know, there's no policy about like share rights and car sharing, and then like there come the policy after. It's I feel like not just policy, right? It's also depend on like population, the market. What does the market want? I think bringing in a technology, especially like from entrepreneurship perspective, it really depends a lot on demographic, the people, the market, the economy itself, like, and also like not just the technology, like there's also like the technical skill. Like if I bring this technology back, would I even have like the talent to even sustain the technology at the first place? Like the policies. I feel like there are a lot of like different perspective and like aspect the technologies that they kind of hinder the prospect of bringing in technology. And I think there are a lot of things to like work towards too. But I think that doesn't mean that bringing in technology is impossible in Malaysia, like in any way.
I see. Cool. Well, just a little wish on my part right here. I hope that you'll get the chance to become like, in fact, Malaysia's Nadiem Makarim, also a fellow alumnus of your school right here, who essentially says right here, one of the most idiotic things people can say about the education space, or perhaps like with respect to technology at large, is essentially that you have to be careful and not take risks. In many cases, you know, you may have to move fast, break things, and stuff of that nature right here. I recall that you were a TA at some point, right, for CS50, and then you also worked with the Indonesian government essentially as part of teaching computer science as well.
Yeah. So yeah, I actually work for like CS50 for Indonesian. So it's like the government initiative like from Indonesia to actually like have teachers in Indonesia to sign up for like CS50 course, which is like an introductory computer programming course.
Wow.
And they kind of hire us to help the teachers to learn about programming, to kind of like teach them about like how to teach to some extent. And I think that's I feel like to me it's a very like transformative experience as well. Like I feel like really huge part of this initiative come from Nadiem, and Nadiem is definitely like one of my like idol, especially in like
He's mine
Southeast
too.
Asia.
He's incredible.
I definitely feel like he's a very visionary man, and he's the kind of man that just like not just like talking about money, right? Like if he's just about money, he will just like definitely just continue to be the
Continue with
CEO
what he was doing.
project or like any other thing. But then like he decided to actually contribute back to like the whole like education system. And I agree with what he said most of the time is that education are really the foundation of like a good like country building and like how you can teach. And I think a lot of the initiative he kind of implemented after like he become the Minister of Education, especially like what I've seen from my perspective, teaching the teachers, I think they are doing a really great job. They are much more like well-versed in terms of like programming, in terms of STEM. And I think that's a valuable asset, especially like coming from like a national school. I realized that how if my teacher actually know coding, I will be like so much better off than like the place I was.
Well, that being said, so definitely we have a lot to learn from Indonesia, and thank you, Minister Nadiem, for your hard work, and also so here's the hope that we can all grow together as we build a stronger ASEAN at large, as well as an ecosystem for students of the current generation to face the challenges of the next. Well, then let's kind of dial back a little bit and think about your present experience, because you've been at Harvard for about 3 years now, and then you're going into your 4th. Literally, today was your first day, was it not? Like, just casually going around, hanging around classes here and there, chill, like self-discovery, that sort of thing right there. But I do want to ask my next question, which is, how has studying at Harvard either met or defied your expectations of studying at the school?
I definitely think that like Harvard goes beyond my expectation. And the only like reason is because I feel like the professor here are just amazing, like really, really amazing. Like I feel like whenever I talk to like students from like the UK, like especially like they say like, oh, one class have like 200 students, I couldn't even talk to my professor. Like comparing my situation to them, I was like talking to professor, researching like with professor since I was first year, and like publishing papers with the Harvard funding, and also like really, like going into like having lunch with professor, having coffees with professor. I think that's something that I really like valued a lot. And I think that that's something that I feel like personally that something goes beyond my expectation. I've never like expected professor to be that inclusive, to be that nice and friendly. And I feel like that experience itself has allowed me to grow much faster just because the professor are really supportive and like friendly. And I think it's just because I'm more like a community-based person. I really like couldn't really like stand to read a book, but I like to talk to people to kind of like understand from their perspective and like really like think about what we can do together as a team to actually like improve. And I think that experience itself, especially with the professors, are like really, really amazing. And it really goes beyond my expectation. And I think it's very cliche, but I think the community here are also like really strong. I've met like the smartest kids. I also met kids that are in my position, like whereby we are like minorities, we are very passionate about something, but we are very insecure about like our own technical ability and stuff. And I also met kids with really high like career expectation and aspiration. And I think like it's kind of like diverse student body, especially student coming from different background and culture, really taught me a thing about like how to embrace like diversity and like really how to really like mingle around. I think a lot of the time I come from a Chinese school. I think KY was my first kind of like school whereby I really kind of like have some like diversity and like really embrace the diverse inclusion. And I think like Harvard just kind of foster them more in me about like when I want to build a product, when I want to build something, it's not just about me and my community, but also about like other people in other community, about like people who may be like marginalized and disabled. And so I think that that kind of mindset is very different than the school. And I think I really appreciated that Harvard have gave me such diverse and transformative experience.
Incredible. Thank you for sharing. Let's go back even further. And maybe like, would you share a little bit about, I guess, like where you grew up, when you were younger, and then eventually like what your schooling journey was like as you kind of like made that journey onwards to Harvard?
Okay, that would be long. Okay, I'll try to make it short. Okay,
Story of the universe.
No, it's okay. I grew up in a very small town like Ipoh. It's not small, it's not big. It's pretty well developed. We have really good food. So if the viewers have not been to Ipoh, please go. That's my
I feel like the Ipoh like constituency should like just like hire you at this point. Like sponsor this lady, sponsor. Okay, so yes, Ipoh, famous for Mountain,
Spicy or
water,
hot.
pretty girls, and also tauge.
Our Tauge is just the best. Unbeatable, guys. Unbeatable.
Amazing. Cool, cool, cool. And then also I think that you have a junior, right? Who is also from Ipoh, Shusin.
Yeah. So recently I have a junior who also from Ipoh. Like we came from the same like high school, primary school, and maybe like kindergarten. I grew up in the same school compound from kindergarten to like high school. So it was like Eva Maria Common. I grew up in the same like I don't know like 10-acre like
Oh my
land
God.
for like 17 years. I'm not even kidding. Like I go there for like kindergarten to like
Oh gosh.
secondary.
So like yeah, there's like something special in the water right here. It's like basically Harvard, and I think that Michelle Yeoh is also from Ipoh, right? So then like she also
Yeah.
spoke at Harvard Law School recently for the commencement as well.
Yeah, guys, if you want your kids to get into Harvard,
Be born in
consider.
Ipoh. If you're not born in Ipoh, then you can't go to Harvard. No, I'm joking.
I mean, this is not true. This is not true. Okay, I'm not
Not
gonna.
true, not true, not true, not true, not true, not true, not true. Oh gosh, like the people from other states are gonna kill us. Okay. Chop, chop, chop.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Okay, so fine. Ipoh, so you went to Ave Maria Convent, and then later then you went to, was it straight to KYUM then?
Yeah. So like after my
Okay.
high school, I got the Kazana scholarship. I think like you have interviewed a few people, like Kotwei as well. Like I got the Kazana scholarship, which I think is very like grateful because at the time I only applied to. Okay, I was very naive, so I can tell the whole story. Like during my like secondary school, I realized that I don't really like exams. I want to explore more like creative outlets. Like I
Oh
really
yeah.
love things when I was young, so I participated in a lot of science fair and like robotics competition when I was in high school. I realized that a lot of the time, like a lot of this school that really win the competition has a lot of resources and are mostly like men, like come from like boys' schools and stuff. So I was really sad. And I wanted to really change that. I really wanted to explore more. So I wanted to go to the States. And that's why I really wanted to go to the States because I realized that the best engineering school is MIT. I did not got in, but I got into their neighbor. So I got into Harvard. So I really want to go to the States because just purely because I want to learn more engineering. And I wanted to show that like, you know, girls, even like from a small town, can go to like a great engineering school and be like good. That's just what I wanted to prove. That's the statement. And after that, like so I was very driven by the statement since like secondary school, and then it kind of like got me into Kazana as well with that statement. And the reason is because I came from a low income family background. So if I don't get a scholarship, I probably wouldn't have any chance to even think about like going into US. So when I searched online US MIT scholarship, the first thing that popped up was Kazana. And so I naively thought that like Kazana was the only one that sponsor like students. I've never known about how competitive like Kazana is. I've never known about like what are the scholarship options. And that actually prompted me to start base at the first place because I feel like people like me from like very small town and didn't get a lot of like information about like scholarship, like about like outlook after high school. It's very sad. Like if I didn't go onto Google and search it up, and if I didn't get into Kazana, like my life would be like so much more different than to what I have.
Wow.
And so like
Absolutely.
I would say that like that really like prompted me to like really explore more. And I was
Wow.
really grateful that like even though it's so competitive, they actually accepted me. Like I did not know it was competitive. Like
Your hit rate was 1 out of 1 right there.
and like
Yeah,
I
I mean,
was
like
like only
it's good for them
applying
also,
to
what, right?
one.
Like if you think about it, like you know, Kazana scholar, then like boom, like off to Harvard, dude, you're one of your shining stars, man. Like respect.
I mean, like I only applied to one. Like from a risk strategy, that's a very bad risk. So I'll strongly encourage all the viewers who are like SPM to really like listen to all your options and like go to base. And after that, I feel like from KY, I really grow a lot about like the university like outcome, like how I can get in. And I found my other passion, which is like contributing back to education. It's mostly like from where I came from, like from my low income, like family status, that you know, social economic background actually like influence like your education background and like how determine your future basically. And
Oh
that's
yeah.
very sad reality
Yeah.
to some extent.
I
But
mean, it's
I
like
think
the poverty cycle, is it not? Like the whole idea that basically, like, if you are poor, then essentially then you face essentially a situation where you don't have good mentors, then essentially then you have to essentially go through this entire cycle right there in order to, well, receive essentially like a bad result right here. But it is breakable. And yeah, I do definitely agree that, initiatives like BASE essentially are wonderful, well, resources for people to, well, pursue educations that they otherwise might not have received. But also, it would be great somehow if, you were to aim higher in the first place, because like in some sense, then that can, well, condition like the way that you behave, the way that you act, and do a lot of different things as well. But I guess
But I feel like people from like low income family background, especially like me or like some other people, especially minorities, I feel like a lot of the time I saw a lot of my classmates do not want to aim higher. And there are like a few reasons out of it, right? It's way much more risky to aim higher unless you can really take up the risk and like really convince your parents. I think that like it took me, like, I feel like maybe I was very rebellious. I was a teenager. So my parents did not put a lot of stress on me. Like my parents are like really like, oh, if you figure yourself out and get a scholarship, yeah, do whatever you want. But I think it's a very high risk like journey. And I think a lot of the time it's like, if you are like coming from a poor background, even aiming higher is just pure like risk. And like if you fail, like your whole family will be in trouble, right? Because if your family is dependent on you, which is the highly educated one, to earn like the family money, if you fail, your family are like kind of like can't get out of the poverty cycle. So they will always opt for like a more safer option, like going to like medical school, or like going into the what do you call the Malaysia pre-U program? Oh my god, I forgot. But there's like this like funnel that's
foundation, matriculation.
Matriculation, yeah, going to
Yeah, yeah.
matriculation. I
I
think a
see.
lot of
Okay.
parents choose the path. And also like
When
there are some who just be like, I don't even know where to aim. Like you say, like you need mentor to kind of like, or like you need Google to even like look out to say like where to aim. Like I'm like fortunate in the sense that I was involved in like robotics, and that kind of gave me like a way to aim as well. But a lot of like students in high school that all do a lot of ECA, so they are like kind of lost about where to aim at the start. So I feel like there are a lot of factors that go into like why like low socioeconomic background leads to like a lower like education outcome. But I would say that's not true generally. Like if you were to aim higher, if you really have great mentors, and that's kind of prompted me to why I wanted to find more like non-profit to even champion the cause at the
I
first
see.
place.
Cool. Were there any, I guess, inspirations, mentors, or perhaps like people that you immediately look to when you think back on those days, right? When you were applying for university along the way?
I feel like there are a lot of people who come and go. I would say like I definitely have like a lot of like people who I admire when I was young. I really forgot. But I think like most of the time, besides people who I admire, like the really driven force is my own like personal like force about like what I wanted to do. And I think like I think like just purely like I'm the kind of person is like if I set my goal, like I'm just gonna go for it. Like like
Move fast and break things.
have my mind on it. Like if I have my mind on it,
I
that's
see. Okay, great. Well, all right then. Now, I know, of course, that you applied to and got into Harvard basically during, if I'm not wrong, 2020, right? Is that correct?
yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yes.
So then that was just around the time of the pandemic. So then I recall essentially in the course of that BFM interview, basically you and Akil were basically just discussing, like will we fly? Will we fly? That kind of thing right there. And yeah, like if we can fly, then Harvard has assured us that it's safe. That kind of thing right there. But maybe can you share with me like how the pandemic actually like just played out in the course of the time, well, when you were just about to attend Harvard?
I think the pandemic plays out in a very suckish way. That's my overall sentence. Just one sentence description. I'll describe more. So basically, Harvard did not fly us out. It's because of like the visa issues and also like a tons of like regulations. So we were like studying at our own like house basically with 12-hour time zone difference. So Victor now it's like 10 p.m. Like I am like, wait, you are 10 a.m. I'm 10 p.m. So imagine like the 12-hour time zone difference means that if you have a lab at 3 p.m. like Eastern time zone, you need to wake up at 3 a.m. And that's what I've experienced. And I think it's like the worst experience because I like to sleep. Like
like
I
most
am
people.
like no, I think I'm very
Yes.
different. Like I'm a person that like couldn't function without sleep. You know, there are some Koreans who can sleep like 2 to 3 hours. They will go to gym at 3 a.m. and be like, guys, I can lift weight at 3. Like I cannot do that. I read this book called Why We Sleep. And I think there's a fact that I remember to now that I think every student should know is that if you sleep like 6 hours for 3 days in a row, you are equivalent to a drunk person. So I sleep for my high performance and high efficiency.
What if
I
the drunk
sleep
person
for
is like, I don't know, like Elon Musk or somebody like high performing of that nature, you know, like some
okay, so there are also like the other side is that a lot of people who can sleep very like short has a certain type of genes, but then not a lot of people have that type of gene. Only like 10% of the people have that type of gene.
I
So
see.
it's one in like 100. So like you should not expect yourself to get that type of gene, and so you sleep.
I see.
So I have always like sleep 8 hours from like high school, secondary school. I actually sleep like 8 hours in like for like SPM. I was like, guys, if I were to study for SPM, I need to sleep. And I
Yeah.
sleep like 8 hours for like my A level. Like I think a lot of people studying in like KYUUM also like try to like pull all nighters to finish homework and
Yeah.
stuff. I
That
sleep.
that kind of culture is like very unhealthy, but also a lot of people, they just kind of like assume basically that it is basically something that they need to do. So like
I feel
there's this like toxic culture whereby people just think, oh, like it's possible for me to get a lot done at the outset, like if I were to do a what do you call it? Yeah, if I were to do an all-nighter, but in many cases
I
it's just that planning.
yeah, I feel like that's not valid because when you don't sleep, like your mind is just couldn't function. So even though you are working for 8 hours, what you produce, like if you sleep, you
Yeah,
can produce 1 hour.
absolutely.
So
Okay.
that's my like TLDR is that
Okay.
sleeping are important. And so like that period of life during the pandemic was just like really suckish for me because I need to wake up at like 3 and then I sleep back, right? Because I need my 8 hours of sleep.
Oh yeah,
So
yeah.
then like the intermittent like sleeping was really like disrupting my whole like immune body and stuff. I was getting more sick by the day. And
I
I
see.
just like really bad. Like I would not want to experience that thing over again. And I was pretty sad that I did not get a gap year. I would say that like if I were to know more about it, I would have took a gap year instead of like being in the same class. Um, yeah, but
Mm,
I would say that like that experience just stuck, and
I
I'm so happy
see.
to be back.
Yeah.
Like
So that
it's just different. And the other thing is that I feel like I'm more like a person that can communicate more when I see someone in person, or like if I see like some like random stranger on Zoom, if it's not you, Victor, I'll be like much more like conservative and not talk more. But then if it's like someone I know like from the start and like just continue meeting on Zoom, I'll be like much better. Or like,
mm,
I just like to meet people in more in person than in Zoom.
mm, that's understandable. I mean, well, even in the technology era, I mean, like there are some aspects of the communication that are, well, intangible, can be like other things around that nature right there. And you certainly can't make a drawing of a certain individual. Do you remember that drawing? Okay, never mind. I'll show it to you later in the video. You'll see. You'll see.
Yeah, let
Please.
me introduce you to my new abstract drawing lessons. Now, currently we have Gerald's in this very abstract drawing.
Is it abstract or is it realistic?
I think it's a combination of both abstract and realistic. I am so pissed at the artistic world, trying to distinguish between abstract and realistic. And therefore, I started to, come up with a new way of art, which is, in between of abstract and realistic. I call it abstraction realism.
That's right.
Yeah.
Our subject is just casually watching right here, entranced by the whole situation. he has never seen like a picture of himself. So
So abstract yet so real, right?
so abstract
Yet
yet so real. Please, Mr. Subject, what is your reaction to this whole thing right here?
So abstract yet so real.
It must have been like super difficult to experience the pandemic, and I'm guessing that like, well, you didn't really get to meet like your classmates also at that point, right? I mean, like,
Yeah.
so, but still, I guess like you must have kind of like interacted with them in some ways, right? In the course of, well, your online class type situation right there. So what was it like to actually meet them on campus for the first time?
I feel like it's very different. Like sometimes you would think that your class may look very short in like on Zoom, and then it become like super tall. And like some people you think are like looks cute, but like when you see it in person, it's very different. So I'll say like the shocking image is like, I don't know, like I feel like everybody experienced this, like when you have like a different perspective of like people. Like you might think that I look slim, but maybe I can't be like obese. You
I
don't know,
see.
right? From this like Zoom interview, that kind of thing. So I feel like
Yeah,
it kind of shocked, you'll be like, oh my god, is this the person I think it is?
I
You
see, I
just
see.
like you don't really know, and you can't really confirm.
I see, I see.
Um, I would say like meeting my classmate in person, um, at the first time is definitely like really exciting. Like,
Mm.
just seeing them. I don't know, like I feel like at that time I was like, oh my god, I'm so tired of screen. I just need to see faces. Even faces with masks, I'm satisfied, guys. So I feel
Okay.
like at that time I was really excited. Now I still have like a lot of like I still see all the friends that I saw, and I think that's like a thing that I'm really grateful for. That like I have friends that I have like since freshman year,
Mm,
kind of like Zoom call, and then now we like meet every week to just talk,
mm,
like gather. I think that's priceless, and I really like grateful for the opportunity to even meet in person. Yeah.
absolutely. Okay. So now I'd like to transition into a discussion about advocacy and representation. So then, right now, I guess as a woman in STEM, so how do you see your role in, I guess, promoting more gender diversity in the field?
I feel like even being in like the field for me is very hard, and I don't talk about it a lot, but I feel like a lot of the time I still feel like very insecure about like my own technical ability. I think a lot of like women in STEM like kind of feel the same way as me. Like as I start to like
Mm,
go to like a lot of more like gatherings and talk to my friends in depth more besides doing problem set, is that a lot of the time you feel that like especially people who does not have like competitive math background, or like just going into math
mm,
like and like stat or like even like CS without any like very strong background.
mm,
I would say like STEM, it's not really friendly until now. Like even with a lot of advocacy and like trying to bring like a lot of inclusion, it's still not really friendly.
mm,
And but the thing that I feel like talking
mm,
it out,
mm,
especially like telling other people that hey, I feel insecure too. Like it's fine. Like we move on and we fight stronger. We come back like stronger next time to show
mm,
that like even though I don't have any background, I'm as good as you. And even though like I might not be as good as you, I'm still a part of this like whole journey, and I
mm,
don't mind it. I feel like that the kind of like advocacy is really good. And I think like I've never like tried to advocate in like in Malaysia, but I would really want to advocate in Malaysia as well. It's really mainly from my background, but I really couldn't think of a way to
mm,
advocate it really good. It's that like when I was young, when I was in secondary school, so I come from a girls' school. There are a lot of like stereotype and like things that girls' school focus on. Like for example, like my school will invest more in like say cheerleading, or like something
mm,
like we are quite good in cheerleading at that point, or like some like musical band. Then like investing in like robotics or like STEM
uh,
related. I even have like I still remember it to now, but like there are some higher up person. I'm not gonna say the name, but like she literally tell me that like you are a girl, like how do you think you can even make this product happen? How do you even think you can be in engineering? You should just be in biology. And I was like, no, I couldn't do that. I feel like I am the victim like a few years ago. I think now things have changed. It might be more inclusive. But
Mm.
I feel like a lot of the time, inclusivity is not, it's still like depending on like resources that you get,
Mm.
like whether you even get access to like this opportunity, like the learning and stuff. I want to have more people in STEM. Like a lot of like the newest recruit in like Harvard, especially women, are not in STEM. I hope that like there will be more like STEM major.
I
Yeah.
see. Okay. Yeah, so like it's a problem that's like not, I guess, like just perpetuated by like people of a specific, I guess, like gender.
Malaysia is not just a problem of gender. It's also a problem of like culture, like differences and like cultural belief. Like for example, a lot of the time, like the Asian parents' mindset is that hey, you should go into either be an engineer, doctors, uh pharmacist or like accountant. And then they will kind of like say that like, oh, engineers are for the men. Yeah, if you are like woman, you should just choose between like being a doctor, pharmacist, or like
Mm,
accountant, which is not true. Like I feel like
mm,
everyone can be whatever you are. And
mm,
I'm not saying that
mm,
I'm not saying that men should not be in STEM or men should represent less in STEM, but I feel like everybody
mm.
should just be where they are, like if they feel comfortable and if they are
I see.
passionate about it. That
I
should not
see.
be stopped. Like I think that's the uh problem. And I think the difference is also like I think it's observable, especially now I'm in more STEM field, is that men generally have more confidence to stand up and talk. I think this is also like pointed out in the Lean In book by Sheryl Sandberg as well.
Mm,
And women generally are like, oh, if I feel insecure, I'll keep it to myself. Um, if I think I'm good, but then there's someone who I think is better, I will also keep it to myself. I think a lot of this is a very like grown, like you grow with that kind of mindset, like when you are young, you are taught that, like, yeah, you should just, I think especially Asian, like you like, okay, yeah, if someone is good, you should just let them do it. Or like, you should not stand up and be like too voiceful or like too, what do you call, too strong, because you will not
too
get like a husband or
expressive.
something. Yeah,
Yeah.
too dominant or something. Like, I feel like it's more like, especially like when I talk to like girls from ASEAN, I think we all have the kind of like submissive like vibe. And
Mm,
I think it's really like about like where you grow up and like really, and it takes a lot of effort from like the woman to even change it, right? Like to even be like, I need to lean in. It's a very difficult movement for me, like to really
mm.
combat insecure, to really combat like my own like challenges and like errors.
For sure. Thank you so much for sharing that. All right. Now, if I could ask, right? So, do you have any, I guess, like particular projects that you, I guess, like felt very proud of as you essentially went through your time at Harvard? Or, well, I
That's
shouldn't say went through because like that's an ongoing thing. I mean, like it's not over until the lady sings. It's not over until the lady sings. But yeah, so all right. I mean, like, do you have any like particular projects, I guess, that like you have been especially proud of? And that I guess I would add on another component to that. I guess like a project that you felt proud of and that you felt, I guess, proud to represent women in I guess like computer science.
Yeah, I think that's a very like good question. I think over like my time at Harvard, I have definitely like did a lot more stuff, like especially in STEM than compared back to like my high school and secondary school. I think the project I think there are two. So like I think mostly it's just my research in healthcare,
Mm,
especially machine learning. So the first one with like Professor Finale Doshi-Bellis, it was about like investigating basically like the ICU data set and about how we can derive insights for doctors in the ICUs to really like help them to make decisions in like the
mm.
ICU about who to save, who not to save. I mean not
Ah,
who to save, but like who to actually like focus on and how to care about them, what indication to look for. That project actually got a really good ending. So we actually published in UWIPS, which is one of the top three, like actually one of
mm,
the top like machine learning like conferences. And I was really happy to get sponsored to like New Orleans to talk about the project, have a poster. I'm not sure whether you have a picture, but I have a picture of me presenting the poster. I can send it to you if it
Sure.
works. But yeah, that was really like a thing. Like as an undergrad, as a woman, I think a lot of the conference are like filled out with men. And I think that was really like my proudest moment, especially like in STEM.
Mm.
I'll say the second one, which I wanted to mention, is the current like project I'm working on, which is on breast cancer. So my mom got diagnosed of cancer last year, which is very saddening. But it's stage one, so it's doing very well right now. So but I will want to dedicate like research towards my mom and especially helping out in the field. And I think I really realized the power of STEM and what I can do even as an individual to contribute back to the like cancer research. So I'm doing like something along the line of like helping to detect like breast cancer patient. So basically it's like trying to make sure that when you got diagnosed of breast cancer, whether your node like lymph node are like positive or not. So in Malaysia, you went through like a very painful process called biopsy, whereby they poke something into your lymph node and take out the specimen. Yeah, it's really painful because it's like really poke without any like anesthesia and stuff. But like in the States, they have a much more like they just recently like introduced this technology called the auxiliary ultrasound. And so my project is to kind of investigate whether like this auxiliary ultrasound is even useful and what kind of like things we can kind of like derive from that to even help the patient.
Incredible. Okay. So there is a particular project I'm interested to explore, but then that will essentially come a little bit later on. But then, well, I guess a general question then. I guess what advice would you give to girls who are interested in venturing into STEM? Because like there may be some people out there who maybe did not even consider studying STEM in the very first place, or maybe they face a similar environment or a culture whereby, you know, like STEM was not really kind of like promoted. And actually along the way also, like I guess something that I was wondering about was, I mean like I guess doctors and pharmacists not equally participants in STEM, but also but just in, I guess, like a different dimension of STEM. I mean, like, so I guess like the type of STEM that you're advocating for is a kind of like a very particular kind of STEM, in that sense.
I think like technical skill kind of STEM. Like
Mhm.
I feel like doctors and nurses are very important part of the whole industry, especially in the technical field. But I want people to explore more beyond like doctors and like nurses and pharmacies, right? For example, like me, I'm working as an ML engineer. I Okay, the story is that when I was young, I always wanted to help people. I always think that the world is full of a lot of problems and like what are the best way I can even contribute back to the world. At first I thought of like being a doctor, like all the Hong Kong dramas. I would like to watch Hong Kong dramas since young. So I did not watch anything now, but when I was young, I was addicted to Hong Kong dramas. And you know like how many like good Hong Kong like dramas are related to medicine and
Oh,
doctors.
plenty.
I wanted to be like doctors because of Hong Kong drama. I secretly think that my mom was nudging me by like allowing me to watch it. But um but then I realized that, you know, like being a doctor, you can at most save like 300, 500 patients in your lifetime of a doctor. But if you are like being in STEM, in research, a drug, like just creating a drug or like just creating an algorithm, just proving like, you know, how we can use STEM can save more life. Like, you know, the doctors you can even like help doctors to like clear up their job. I think in Malaysia, like one of the like largest thing that I saw, especially in government hospital, is that doctors are there, but the technology are not there, right? Like you have like patient needed to wait like 2 or 3 days to even see the doctors. And like a lot of these things can be solved by like a really good like computer software system, like a really good like resource allocation system. And all of this are just them that nobody care about because it's not glamorous, but it's actually very glamorous in like a long term, right? Because you are actually saving like much more patients' life and you're actually like contributing back to society in a massive scale.
I see.
And I think that's something that people kind of need to realize is that like if um first of all is that if you want to be in STEM, it's a noble cause, I think you contribute back to the society in a different way. And then I think that's something you should be proud of at first.
Oh,
It
for
should be like,
sure. Yeah.
I want to be like in STEM, I'm contributing back. And that's my purpose. I mean, you can have different purpose, but I think that should be like your kind of like guiding principle and like, what motivates you to go on further. And I think secondly is that I feel like when you are deciding whether to even go into STEM, what STEM to go to, I would say explore, like be not like afraid to even like go beyond your academic. Like I remember when I was in secondary school, I skipped a lot of classes to just like participate in robotics competition, to go to like, I would say it's a bad thing. Um, but like I would say
Got
if
into
you
Harvard.
are really
So
like balancing out between like I mean I did not like lax out on my academic. Okay, I just did not go to class. But I think I still go to tuition and like I still study for my like exam. But be like really like ready to explore and like willing to explore. Like a lot of the time, like when you're in school, like there will be like, oh yeah, there's a state like solar car competition. Who want to join? A lot of the time nobody wanted to join. You can like, try your like best to join and like learn from it. I think it's a valuable experience. I have joined like a lot of like
mhm,
random science experiment competition from
mhm,
solar car to water rocket to like
right.
random thing. I think it gave me like a lot of like background about what I'm truly passionate about and what I
Mm,
really wanted to like focus on. And I
right.
think that I feel like is really helping me is to really observe the problems that are even in the society. Like I feel like I I grew up in a way whereby like my at that time when I was in high school, like my grandparents were like pretty old and they were going in and out of the hospitals. And I really observed that there are a lot of things that when because I was in also robotics as well, I observed that there are a lot of like problems that can be solved by like technology and STEM, and that was like a big motivation for me to even go into it. So I think like find your motivation, be ready to explore and
Mm,
like just stay strong on your ground.
for
Like
sure.
I think that's like an important thing. A lot of the time, like you can do everything and you'll be like, oh my god, it's so tough. Like everybody's looking down on me, everybody's thinking that I'm crazy, everybody
Yeah.
thinks that I don't belong here. But stay strong on your ground, your time
Yeah.
will come.
hmm And that advice definitely doesn't just apply to girls, but also like to I think like people in general at large. So thank you for that wonderful message.
Oh,
Well, all right.
thank you.
So yeah, for sure. So then I guess so I recall right now something that like we talked about the very first time that we met in that Japanese restaurant. Do you recall? So
I think
basically
it talk a lot about a lot of things, so you
we
might need
talk
to.
about a lot of different things, extrinsic, intrinsic motivation, blah 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 blah. Gerald's 4.0 GPA, amongst other things, right there. But yeah, so I recall, of course, that even at that time, so you were talking about how, like, or maybe it was Gerald that said this, that you're interested in automating doctors right here. And so like within essentially this, I guess, framework of automation, then there comes essentially the large question, which of course many people have been probably thinking about right here, this right here, like large language models, generative AI, Zachin right here, automating a whole bunch of different things, being able to answer essentially questions, essentially based on, I mean, like even answer like MIT kind of like questions right here, stuff of that nature. So like I guess like do you have any, I guess, particular thoughts about, I guess, like LLM technology, AI, and like where do you think that we're going at this point in time? Because like, computer
I think
science,
that's a really great question. I would say LLM is definitely a great technology. It's very nascent. Um, I believe,
mm,
I think it's a very controversial belief
mm-hmm,
that machine learning is actually a good thing for humanity. I think a lot of people think that, with this rise of LLM, like the whole humanity is gonna go into existential crisis and we're gonna die. But like, okay, my counter argument to that is that,
Well, I
guys,
mean,
you're
like,
gonna
we are going to die. The question is just when, though. Unless, of course, like, you can upload your mind to a computer
I
system.
was like, guys, the counter argument is that,
Sorry.
like, you're gonna die from like climate change and all sort of shenanigans before we can even get killed by robot at the first place. So we should relax. I sincerely believe that like climate change is gonna kill us all before like, like we can achieve like a AGI, artificial general intelligence. And then I would say like LLM has a lot of potential, but I would say that the technology in LLM is very different than if you want to automate, like say in the medical field. I foresee like the only like place that LLM works in medical field is like, the interviews, questioning and stuff. But I would say the technology for like say surgery, like LLM couldn't do surgery. That's like my
That's
QE.
a fundamentally different thing.
Yeah,
altogether.
that require like a different type of like machine learning algorithm, like say like some CNN, some like really like image based network and robotics, like precision robotics with like machine learning, and that's like a different kind of field.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I would say LLM has a lot of space to improve, especially like being more diverse. I would say like LLM is very biased and it's definitely not as good as I want it to be, especially in like in different languages and stuff.
I see. Like you use, I guess, things like ChatGPT for the purpose of like coding or stuff of that nature, right there? Or like do you use any other like AI powered tools maybe to
do
do like different things, I guess, like with your life right now? Because like there's this whole like idea that like in an age essentially of artificial intelligence of ChatGPT, essentially you don't need your brain anymore. You can just go right ahead and just use ChatGPT for every single thing. So like to what extent do you believe that is a viable, I guess, like way of living for the prospective Harvard student?
But I definitely think that that's not possible, and I actually think that it's very dangerous if like humans use it in that way. I feel like, first of all, humans still need to maintain their judgment on what they have. Like if I tell ChatGPT to come up with a code and you do not know what the code is writing about, and that's where the dangers lie, right? Like it's not about whether like the technology has a danger, but like whether the human being that are using it has even like see the risk at the first place. Therefore, like I really champion that if you want to use ChatGPT to code, first of all, you need to learn what is a code, what is the syntax of it, whether what he's doing is even right? Like you don't know like what you say was even right, whether what he's doing was even right. So I feel like that still need a fact check. And the reason is because no matter what happened, someone need to be responsible. Especially like if you think in the field of like medical AI. Like if a robot like did something on a human and the human died, like who is gonna be responsible for it? It must be like a human that be like, okay, I approve this robot like procedure, or like I overlook this robot procedure, and something like that. Like there should still be like a human perspective into like what the ChatGPT outlook will say.
Absolutely.
And I think that's something, and I think in the future is less about like I feel like now the workforce is more like, okay, I need to like code out this like bunch of things. But in the future it's more like I tell ChatGPT to code it out, it will help me and I just need to inspect it. Like I'm the manager of ChatGPT, that kind of like feeling. I feel like the workforce is moving towards more that sense than just like really like automating towards the whole process.
Right.
And I think people should not just like brainlessly copy like what an AI say, and that's very dangerous.
Yeah.
That's
I mean, even Harvard is like taking some strides on that front, what with having that CS50 bot, if I'm not wrong, to basically like teach people using essentially GPT. Not really giving them the answers like per se, but instead like leading people towards the answer. And also what you've said raises that broader question of like AI governance and like accountability, essentially, because like like if you were to just literally be all like, hey, what's up, I'm going to just go ahead and use this AI output right here, it's like probably your own fault. And I think that some people, they might think to themselves, maybe we should basically subjugate that judgment by creating better and better models. But I mean, like, fundamentally, machines do not have the same constraints, like the same, I guess, like priviness to laws and stuff of that nature, because you can't really punish a machine in the same way that you can punish a human being. So
I mean,
but
you can punish a machine by just closing it down technically, but the
I
machine
guess.
just be like, oh, cool, you closed me down. But like he doesn't have like consciousness about what he did wrong, right? You just close it down. And the second point that I think you raised really well is that like we all think that machine can be trained like better and better from more human inputs, but then humans inputs are also biased, right? Like I feel like human inputs are like always based on like a certain like opinions, a certain heated topic, a certain population, and that's not like what we should do, and that's not what machine should have, right? And so I think more and more data will get machine better and better, but that doesn't mean that like the machine will be doing like more and more like morally and ethically correct decisions. Because a lot of the time, like when we publish things on like internet, we are not telling the people whether we are like morally correct or ethically wrong. They can have some like keyboard warriors who type some like, you know, random shit and it was like being passed into like ChatGPT. And that's not what you want, the ChatGPT output, right? So I think in terms of like the moral like ethics and like the ethics itself is really depend on like humans. And I don't think that like that means that like the machine can be good in a way whereby, you know, if the machine did not see this type of input before and it was like trained on it, yes, it can be better. But if it's trained on input that he haven't seen that is like, you know, morally and ethically wrong, that doesn't go well. And like I think ChatGPT is still like morally and ethically correct because they are like a group of people in like, okay, it's also like a morally and ethically wrong issue right there, but they hire like cheap labor in like Nigeria and Africa and something to even like fact check, to even like filter like what data to even pass in. And it was like a huge news on like um some places because they are paying them so low to even like clean up their training data at the first place. So I would say like GPT is good because it has been like filtered and the filtering process was really painful and it takes up a lot of time and effort from a lot of people.
I see. Okay, cool. Now, thank you for sharing that perspective. Now, I'd like to transition now towards, I guess, like a question of, well, motivation and I guess like some aspirations. I think we've kind of touched on that a little bit, but maybe, well, being in Harvard right now, you are amongst essentially some of the smartest people in the world. That is beyond question at this point in time. And so when you're in that environment, right, would you share a little bit about, well, how it is that you draw motivation to carry on doing the things that, well, you're doing on a day-to-day basis? Like, where do you look to as you go through, well, like the tests of fire, or essentially like the things that come ahead of you in the course of this educational journey?
I think that's a really great question. I say like my motivation have changed a lot since the start. Like I said, like I feel like now I'm still like in like a very self discovery and like explore process, and I think I kind of like come to the end because like I'm ending my Harvard journey. But I think my motivation have changed a lot over the years, and it's all because like I feel like I also talked to these Malaysians a bit about this the other day. I feel like throughout my 4 years here, as you say, like I've met like the smartest, like some of the like richest, and like some of the like really academic like excellence and even like career excellence people, and they really like drag me in all sorts of way, right? Like I want to be a PhD at first. I wanted to be a like, you know, a quant trader. I wanted to be a consultant, and you know, like all these sorts of directions are like, you know, I was lost. I will like say that, and I was really do not know where I want to go, and I think, I think the first step I kind of realized is that I need to like sit down and really like understand what I want and like what I want to achieve in life, right?
Mm.
Like I feel like before that, like I was dragged in like multiple directions because I don't really know what I want and I was so lost and everybody was doing so well. And I kind of have like this kind of like burden on me that hey, I need to do well too. I think success come with a price. I think a lot of the time is that a lot of people like tell you how to handle failures, but a lot of people do not tell you how to handle success. And it's like I think something I kind of learned. Like I feel like a lot of the people see me as like, oh, like you are successful because you ended up at Harvard. But because they see me at that way, I feel like immense pressure to continue to do well.
Mm.
And that pressure was like really like difficult to handle. That pressure just pull you everywhere. That what society definition of like
Right.
good, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's interesting to think about that because like a lot of times like people when they see like for example a fancy university name, they immediately think that the person that they are speaking to or that they see is like on a pedestal. I could never reach that level, that kind of thing. But at the same time, like, as you said, like it pushes like pressure on you in like sort of like undue ways, because like at the end of the day, like whether you go to a specific university or not, like you're still your own human being, right? Like you have your own life, your goals, your dreams. You may have your own insecurities as well along that journey. And I think that that's an underappreciated fact, right? That like even people whom we see like essentially in the world out there, like we're not infallible, right? Like it doesn't matter like if you have a high position or whatever out there. Like fundamentally, I think that's one of the things that is common to us as humans. And so yeah, like thank you for sharing that. And but just kind of like moving forward then, like do you feel that you've gotten a little bit closer towards a true north?
Yeah, definitely. I feel like I have becoming calmer. This like becoming calmer as a senior year. I think a lot of the time is that like really like I think a lot throughout the summer, like what I wanted to do and like really focus on like growing on myself. And like I think yoga helps. I'm not sure whether that's a I mean I think really just like having the time to focus on yourself. A lot of the time, like I feel like yoga helps because I think whatever like activity that you do, like meditation, going to gym, that just focuses on yourself is the thing that helps. Like I feel like a lot of the time in school, like you just like work, and like all you care about is like what other people see of me, what my work represent me and stuff. But like when you really have the time to like really slow down and think about who you are and what you want, I think that's just something that's very important. And for me it's yoga. I think for other people it's some other thing. And I think it comes to the conclusion that like as I say, I think I've emphasized a lot in this like whole interview is that I really wanted like to contribute back to the society in whatever way I could. And I think like going back to Malaysia is mostly like through the entrepreneurship route. And I think like um I think I have always like flip-flop around the entrepreneurship route at first, but then I really like think I should focus on it. And that's because I feel like I have a really like strong mentor at Harvard Business School. And I think he really like wake me up to some extent as well. So before that, like I feel like he also like he talked about like the idea of like when you are more successful, or like when you are a Harvard student, you are you are less likely to take risk, and therefore a lot less people are going to entrepreneur, and they will want to go to like um like quant trading or like investment banker consulting. Those are risk free, and it seems like a good professional to like a lot of people. But I think like all the time, I think as he said, his name is Reza. I think Reza like said like a lot of the time is that we always overestimate the risks and underestimate the reward that we get throughout the process. And I think he actually like kind of wake me up by just that sentence itself. Like I always overestimate the risks of like entrepreneurship and underestimate the reward I'll get. And I will always like, blinded by what other people would think of me than like the reward I get from doing what I'm interested in.
For
so
sure.
I think like I will like definitely want to focus more on like entrepreneurship, like non-profit organizations, and even devote that time back to Malaysia
Amazing.
on that kind of like aspects.
Amazing. Wonderful. And to kind of add on to that perspective, which incidentally was tremendously wonderful. Thank you for that. So the whole overestimating the risk and underestimating the reward thing right there. So like it might not even be something that you might think purely of in terms of monetary terms. Of course, like that is one component of success, right? That essentially people commonly understand. But there can be other components of success or reward that essentially a person may find throughout the course of life. And yeah, so on that journey, so then hope that you will be successful and that as time goes by, more and more will appear in front of you that will assure you essentially of not just the correctness of your choice, but also open up numerous doors for you that you at the moment cannot even see. But anyway, nonetheless, so yeah, so thank you for sharing that. Moving forward then, so when you immediately, I guess, well, I guess like that's like a year from now, and like you literally just began your last year, but as you kind of move back to Malaysia, are there any specific things that you are interested in doing at the moment, or like projects, things that you want to, I guess, like consider at this point in time? Could be even something that you're even working on at this point in time as well.
I I feel like I can't work on like the law project right now because like the Harvard curriculum it's just like
It's pretty intense, yeah.
it's like it just take up my life, guys. It just take up my life. But I
Yeah.
think like I have a few projects that I really want to work on. I think like one of that being like really restarting the Logic X Lab with you, especially if I want to go back. I feel like that touch a lot about like what I really care about, especially like in STEM, in like really like encouraging more accessibility and visibility in like what I truly care about. I think that's really important. I think the second thing I probably will want to kind of think about as well is like really like championing like focusing on education inequality as well as like how to think about. I think like Logic X Lab is one of the ways, and I think like a lot of the time I also want to think about more on like healthcare side as well. That's one of my passion, driven by my family reasons. I think like yeah, education and healthcare will be like the biggest thing, and like bringing back like even technology. And I think Logic X Lab will be a
okay, sure,
coming soon.
for sure. Okay, I'll look forward to that. But yeah, I mean, like you're essentially just like solving problems that I guess like you saw right there, and kind of like just move fast, break things, and so I'll be looking forward to that. Okay, so that being said, so now I guess on a more, I guess, philosophical or general level, right? So
Okay.
then how do you, as you transition to the next phase of your life, and we're coming towards the end of this interview already, well, how do you envision, I guess, the application of your Harvard education in Malaysia? I guess like more philosophically. Of course, like we talked a little bit about like, like particular projects or like, things of that nature right here, but I guess in a more holistic or all-encompassing way, I guess like how would you hope to have, I guess, like your Harvard education, well, eventually end up, well, benefiting, I was gonna say Malaysia, but it's essentially like society at large, right? Because like we live in a common world at large. So how do you see essentially like your Harvard education and like the direction or trajectory of your interest benefiting society at large?
Wow, that's a very deep question. I would say like Harvard will like definitely like help a lot. Especially like the lessons I learned here. I think sorry, even like the technical lessons or even like the philosophical one that I just told you about like risks, about how to think about life. I think a lot of the time it's just me like talking to professor and I'm like, oh, I'm so lost. And then they'll be like, yeah, you're just like overthinking, dude. Like stop worrying. And then I'm like, you too. I feel like just like a lot of the time, like the mindset, I think the grind mindset that like Harvard just instill on everybody. I think it helps, but it can like be toxic sometimes, but it definitely helps in like really like working hard towards what you are passionate about. I think that's what Harvard is famous for. And I think at Harvard something that I really think is very like important lessons for myself is like really like how to like especially in the 4 years like how to really like handle like successes and failures, how to like really like communicate my feelings, how to like really lead by not just like brute force but really like communication. That I think that I don't really like get somewhere else. And I really like think about business from a different perspective. I think
Oh yeah, yeah.
as you mentioned as well, like I'm a Harvard Business School Tech Fellow. So I think that fellowship itself gave me like a lot of like motivation to like and like benefits. I think it really like fits me and it's like what I need. And I'm so grateful that I actually got that. Because like the professor really like guide me through about like how to think about like if I want to become a founder, what kind of founder mindset I should have. Like what should I think about in terms of like funding, marketing, how should I position it? I think those are like really, really like important and valuable lessons that I supposed to be learning in my second year of MBA, but I think it was really like a chance for me, this like Harvard Business School Tech Fellowship program. In terms of like how my goals are gonna contribute back to the general public, I always wanted to become like a really like a social entrepreneur kind of thing, if that makes sense. Like I really wanted to like focus, and I think two things that I'm really passionate about is education and healthcare, and I've been like saying it again and again. And I think it's because it's from where I came from. It's really like the problem that I think is the foundation of like a good world, because I think a good education really helps people to like, as I experienced myself firsthand, really help people to expand their mind, really help a family to break out of the poverty cycle.
For sure.
And like I think that's very like transformative or even like life changing for me and my family. And I wanted to bring life changing like scenario to more families in the future. And something that I'm really passionate about in healthcare is more like equitable healthcare. Like I always wanted to believe that like, you know, something that I think is very interesting, that something I wanted to do. Maybe you can quote me like in 30 years time if I really successfully started it.
Okay.
Is that I really wanted to like do like a woman and children hospital kind of thing. It's like a thing in like the US for some reason. Like they have like hospital like really focuses on like women and children diseases. And I think that's very noble cause, especially like given the fact that they're always the one that's marginalized. And they are always the one that is like, you know, more unprotected. And I wanted to give like a safe space in terms of that. And like really focus on like women disease, like cancers, and like really bringing in more like advanced medical and treatments back to Malaysia. And I think something that I really see here is that it's really different between the healthcare system. There are more like technology here, even though it's more expensive. But I think there are like ways we can do to make it cheaper and more accessible for everybody.
Amazing. Cool. Random question. All right.
Okay. Come.
So why do you feel
Yeah.
at this point in time that you are the right person to bring about the revolutions that you would like to bring forward in this world? And why do you think that people should invest in you or believe in your
Wow.
cause? Or yeah, go ahead.
I think that's a very deep question. Wow, I think your question are very like, you know, on point. I want to give you credit on that. That's a really on point question.
Thank you.
Okay. I think it's not, I hope that there are more people working on a cause. I definitely don't think that like, you know, I alone can change the whole landscape. I feel like it's a teamwork. I feel like more people should like realize the problem, and it's definitely like not just me, but like the whole world should move towards the goal. And I think that's like a great thing. And I hope I can be the start of it, but I think definitely it requires a teamwork of it. And why people should invest in me.
Or your
That's a great.
leadership, or like I guess like the cause that you believe in, as opposed to like any other like kind of cause right there.
I feel like a lot of the time it's about like someone's motivation and story. And you know, you can always invest in someone who me.
Or your
That's a great.
leadership, or like I guess like the cause that you believe in, as opposed to like any other like kind of cause right there.
I feel like a lot of the time it's about like someone's motivation and story. And you know, you can always invest in someone who are like definitely like 10x smarter or even like 10x richer than me. But I think like, you know, if you don't have like the motivation and the story, it's very hard to even stay motivated on this ground, right? Because if you think about it, like the best way to even like earn profit in this whole like things that I just talked about is to make the most money out of it. right? Like is to actually charge like the most and like really like sell to the most exclusive people. Like say you have invented a drug that can cure all cancer. Like you just want to charge like, like
Martin
a
Screlly
hundred
vibes.
K. Yeah, like 100K a pill and only like the richest
Mm,
person can like do it. But I always believe that, if you sell like $1 to 100 person, you are still like 100,000 people, you are still getting the same amount of
the
money.
same result.
Maybe your profit is like different, but like you can always think about ways from like a technological perspective to like economy of scale to make it cheaper. Like there's always a way to make it cheaper, and there's always a way to benefit humans being. It's just like, do you want like a profit driven like leader, or do you want someone who is more like um profit driven but still really focusing on like the
Right.
benefits of society in general?
Right. It's like, would you rather have $100, or would you rather have $100 and $50 million worth of PR value or something else of that nature? I love that.
Or like
Amazing.
more love from the human being, basically. You don't want to
For
get like
sure.
thrown like eggs on your door.
For
Right?
sure, for sure. Okay then. So that being said, so second last question. I guess like
Mm.
what do you feel are your aspirations for, I guess, like the technological landscape of Malaysia, and like do you have any like immediate thoughts or hopes essentially for that landscape at large as you kind of like move forward?
I think there are definitely a lot of like places where Malaysia can improve from like a technological perspective.
Mm,
That's for sure. My own personal take will be like healthcare. I would say like there are a
yeah.
lot of data like in Malaysian healthcare system that are not like
Mm,
utilized, not safe.
yep.
And there's also like a lot of like inefficiency that I can like foresee to be solved. And I think that's one
Mm,
of the most pressing issue. I think not just in Malaysia, like in Southeast Asia in general,
mm,
like is that like data, healthcare data in Southeast Asia need to be solved. I think that's one. And
mm.
second thing is that education. I feel like more like kind of like computer literacy should be
Computer
introduced in
literacy.
school,
Oh yeah, for
coding
sure.
literacy. I think Malaysia should first of all build towards more. I think I'm not like a politician,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I would
That's
want
fine.
Malaysia to build towards a more um technological driven workforce. I feel like nowadays
Oh yeah, for
like
sure.
the education syllabus that we have is still really like, like blue collar, white collar kind of like workforce. But I think what we should aim towards is more like, workers that can actually produce more value from like a technological perspective in like Malaysia, especially seeing the growth of like Southeast Asia, especially in like tech companies like Grab, Gojek and stuff. I think those talent will be valuable, and you
Mm.
definitely do not want like brain drain to like Singapore or Indonesia, given the sense. And
Well, mm,
and then the third thing I see is that like the incorporation of more like technology in general, even in
mm.
like daily life.
Daily life, yeah.
I think like a lot of the inefficiencies that we see,
Even like
especially like
government, for example, like
exactly, yeah, like
government
like
tech, stuff of that nature.
yeah, like GovTech, like why am I still mailing my taxes and needing my accountant? I should just, be online and fill in some form, submit. That's and okay, I sincerely believe that like government website in Malaysia need a revamp. They can hire
Yeah.
me if they need a revamp. I think that they should have like a more
uh,
beautiful, user friendly,
for sure, yeah. In
seamless
case you're
information.
wondering about like who you're competing with in Singapore, you will be competing with the firstborn son of Lee Hsien Loong. This dude right here. Director of Open Government Products in GovTech. So all right.
Yeah,
As far
I definitely think they need like better like gov tech
yeah,
and
for
like
sure.
a lot of other tech as well, like not just gov tech, like health tech,
Mhm.
variables. I think there are definitely a lot of things that Malaysians are like Malaysia can be improved in terms of like
Mm.
technology,
Mm.
like even agricultural tech,
Oh yeah,
renewable
yeah.
tech. I
Mm.
think a lot of like places can be improved. Like I
Yeah, yeah.
definitely think that I am the person, and I hope that a lot of people who are like currently studying like in the US can go
Mm.
back
Yeah,
and
yeah.
like really like. But I think the first thing is that you need to have okay. The other thing that I was really like sad about is that Malaysia don't have like a company for like people who actually are tech driven to go back and work. First of all, the pay is bad. I'm saying this real loud and I'm saying this out loud is that the pay in Malaysia for like tech workers or even interns, like I get paid, I'm saying it transparently, I get paid $50 an hour being a machine learning intern in the US. I don't get paid that much. I get paid like $8 in Malaysia. And I overtime work and I did not get like enough overtime paid. And so I sincerely think that, you know, I wanted to start the company as well, especially like really recruiting like tech people who are like overseas and paying them really well. To really help build Malaysia is something that is really, really important. And I think, you know, it will foster like a more like a rolling stone. Like what I foresee, it will be like a snowball effect. It will really like push towards a more like equitable pay. Because when you can't recruit talent and your talent are being stealed by some other company who is paying more, you should pay more too.
For sure, yeah. I mean, like there are some companies in Malaysia, like for example, CoinGecko, and I believe like in the Facebook group Developer Kaki, for example, there is like even a list of companies that basically pay like salaries of essentially above like 10K in the event that people work for a certain number of years or whatever have you right there. I'll see if I can find that and send that to you a little bit later on. But I definitely agree. But yeah, I guess like a lot of employers would then say, ah, yeah, no money, that sort of thing right there. But well, if you pay peanuts, then you get monkeys. So do
Yeah,
monkeys
like I
even
feel
eat
like,
peanuts?
you know, like
Okay, yes,
I actually think that is like a very bad like toxic relationship, right? Like if you pay peanuts to your employee is just gonna give you peanuts, and that's the truth, right? Like you cannot hire like the best talent. Like if you're not paying an equivalent amount of like what the talent can get in like the UK or the US or even like other places, the talent is not gonna come to you. And even if you can get someone, the quality of work that they give you is just gonna be bad, and you're just gonna get like a job. So I feel like first of all, like the yeah, I think, you know, like I've talked to a lot of people, especially like, you know, why they don't want to go back to like Malaysia or like Southeast Asian. And one of the things that I heard the most is like just pay, just basically pay, like, and like the opportunity itself. Like if I'm in STEM, yes, I will have like company to work for, but like the pay is bad and the project I work with is like I'm like a cog in the wheel or something like that. Like I feel like they need to have more stuff in order to attract like more talents.
for
And I feel
sure.
like I understand from like a lot of business owner perspective that it would decrease their profit, but you know, overall in the long term, I believe that if you hire good people and pay them well, it will come back like better 10x in the future.
Quality over quantity. Of course, you can't just like hire like anybody out there. You have to find the correct people and then hire the correct people as well.
Yes.
For sure. Amazing. Cool then. Okay. So my last question then to you, and thank you so far for the wonderful interview. So with all the experiences, the knowledge, the different things that essentially have come by essentially in your entire life right there. Imagine essentially like the entire 4 years that have essentially just come and gone right here, playing out in a single highlight reel that essentially is flashing by, like basically like 50 frames per second, 100 frames per second, as eventually you know, like they play out the entire history that essentially that you've experienced thus far. With all the experiences, the knowledge that you've gained for the total you know, like time that you've been upon this earth right here, what message or advice would you like to convey to the next generation of students who are out there embarking on, I guess, a quest like the one that essentially you embarked on all those years ago?
I'll say I'm pretty young, so don't take my advice as a grain of salt.
Yeah.
I mean, if you give me like 20 or 30 more years, I probably can give you like deeper and more philosophically driven advice. I think like the advice I would give is stay strong and passionate. Like stay passionate about like what you're passionate about. I think that's my strongest advice. I feel like a lot of the time, like I think I personally didn't even like follow the advice sometimes, but I think whenever like I'm lost, I think like that advice is the one that keep me grounded and really like keep me back going about like where my direction are. Is that like Like really stay passionate about what you care about. And that's very important. Like, for example, like a lot of the time, like, you know, your parents might influence you about like, you know, your decision. Like, oh, you should not do this, you should do that. Your teacher can influence you. Like your friends can be like, oh my God, like I'm doing this and earning so much money. Look at you, you're doing this, you're earning like peanuts. Or like, you know, you seeing your friends more successful, like seems to be like happier on like Instagram. I mean, like all of them, first of all, like good for them. You still need to stay like passionate about what you are passionate about. And that's what keep you going. And that should be like,
Absolutely.
you know, something that, you know, that's you and not influenced by some other people. Like I have been like influenced so many times. Like I've been like swayed away to like PhDs, to like trying to pursue quant. But then I realized that, you know, at the end of the day, that's not something that I'm passionate about. That's not where my strength at. I'm not playing with my strength. Like really like focuses on your strength and really focuses on what you're passionate about and stay like strong and passionate about it. I think that's something that's very important. And I think the second thing is that as the rise of like social media ages, I think that's a very important message is don't compare. Like whenever you compare, you will see like, oh my God, I'm so weak, I'm so insecure, like I have so much stuff that I don't know how to do. Like people are prettier, like are like so much smarter, like they are like contributing to the world, and I'm just being a peanut lying on my bed. But like a lot of time is that, you know, like I lie on my bed too. Like sometimes I just spend my whole day like scrolling like Instagram reels and like, you know, like sleeping all day and doing nothing. Like the reality is that a lot of the time what you see online is not necessarily true and doesn't represent like the whole person as a whole. And I think I want to say that I think a lot of people also like take me as like a role model or something. I just want to say that I'm not as good as what you think. And so if you take me as a good model, then you should not compare yourself to me or like other people, because that's not healthy for you. And I also do like random stuff, and I'm still a normal human being that, you know, go out and play and do wrong things sometimes, sleep in, and you know, don't go to classes. So I would say, yeah, focus on yourself, and you
Right.
know,
A wonderful and shining example of how you can achieve a lot but still be a normal human being. But of course, you know, retaining that passion and carrying onwards, but also retaining your humanity. Incredible message right here. And I'm sure that many people will benefit from it for sure. Thank you so much for this interview, Zat. It has been wonderful.
thank you so much
Yeah,
for
thank you so
interviewing.
much.
I really have I think, you know, like talking to you is also like a, you know, like a self healing and discovery process.
So,
Yeah.
was there
And
that therapeutic effect from my speech? I did not know that, but now I know. Okay.
it's actually like a very therapeutic section, guys. Like I think it's great.
Okay, cool. For all future interviewees. Thank you.
Yeah, take my words. It's very therapeutic.
Okay, any last things that you want to share? If anything wasn't covered yet.
I don't know. Like I feel like, yeah, guys, you can do it. That's all I wanted to say.
Okay.
Believe in yourself.
Believe in yourself. Oh, and
keep
also
calm.
keep calm. All right, cool. Amazing, cool, and thank you so much for featuring on today's edition of Pathways to Excellence. Make sure to get like and subscribe to all of those of you out there who have not just yet subscribed. And all right, thank you so much, Zat.
Smash the like button.
Smash that like button, break
No,
through the walls of the universe. Okay, and now I will stop
Subscribe to
recording.
Victor Channel if you want to get into Harvard. That's the number one rule.
Citation needed. Okay, I will stop recording.
You can cite Z2023.
Cite Zats 2024. Thank you again.